Welcome to Kiss and Tell Stories. Enjoy the story and have a great time listening. Digging a hole for the jerk and the wretched woman to fall into hell. When my wedding ceremony reached the ring exchange part, a young pregnant woman suddenly appeared. She stared straight at me and said, "I am his true love. You don't deserve to marry him." I smiled and handed her the bridal bouquet, saying, "Is that so? Then you marry him." And with that, I immediately announced the cancellation of the wedding and switched the bride on the spot. She didn't know this was a trap I had spent 2 years preparing. Her appearance and disruption of the wedding were the first steps I took to drag them into hell. My ring finger throbbed in pain, but Daniel Garcia still hadn't slipped the ring onto my hand. He turned his head, staring motionlessly toward the entrance. Everyone followed his gaze, and the whole hall buzzed with whispers. A young woman in a wedding gown walked straight onto the stage, lifting her dress hem. Then she pushed the groom aside, looked me straight in the eye, and declared, "I am his true love. You don't deserve to marry him. The only person who should be the bride today is me." The hall erupted in chaos, and all eyes turned toward me. I slowly lifted my veil, handed her the bouquet, and smiled. "Is that so? If you're his true love, then go ahead and marry him." Then I took the host's microphone, turned to everyone, and announced, "Mr. Daniel, CEO of the Garcia Corporation. And I had a childhood engagement, not out of mutual love, but because my mother once saved his life. Though I loved him and wished to marry him, he loved someone else. Therefore, I will step back and let them be together. From this moment on, the engagement between me and him is void. I sincerely wish them happiness." After speaking, I returned the microphone to the host. Daniel Garcia tightened his grip on my wrist and growled, "Sadie Lewis, what the hell are you doing?" I calmly smiled. "Just helping you and your true love be together. Aren't you going to thank me?" "You!" He was speechless. At that moment, a swarm of reporters rushed forward. "Mr. Garcia, why are there 2 brides at your wedding? Can you explain? We've heard the Garcia Corporation is going public soon. Will today's events affect that? There are rumors that you're entangled in numerous romantic scandals and no longer focused on the company. Is that true?" Daniel Garcia panicked, furious, and shouted, "Shut up! All of you, shut up! Who let you in here? Get out now!" The girl in the wedding gown tried to approach him, but was pushed to the ground by him. She let out a scream. When she looked down, she saw red stains spreading. She clutched her stomach, her face pale. "Daniel Garcia, our child." "What? You're pregnant? This..." "Everyone move aside." Daniel Garcia picked her up and rushed out, while the reporters hurried after them, cameras rolling. Inside, I was overjoyed, completely satisfied with their dramatic performance. I immediately made a phone call. "Money's not an issue. Just make it beautiful. Rest assured, President Lewis. After this, the Garcia Corporation will have a hard time bouncing back. Daniel Garcia, you have no idea I've waited a long time for this day. You thought you hid everything so well, but from the very beginning, you were already caught in my trap." And as for her appearance and disruption at the wedding were just the first step in dragging both of you into hell. After changing out of the wedding dress, I drove to the cemetery. A light rain was falling. Holding a black umbrella, I stood before my mother's grave and said to her, "The person you saved back then, in the end, he betrayed me. If I could choose, I'd rather you never saved him. But it's okay. I'll make him pay." My mother lost her life saving Daniel Garcia. Over a decade ago, one summer, Daniel Garcia came to visit our house and a fire broke out unexpectedly. My mother used the last of her strength to push him out, while she herself was engulfed in flames. Her final words were, "Daniel, please take care of Sadie for me. Daniel Garcia held my hand and ran out. We survived. But my mother was gone. The incident caused a huge public outcry at the time. Daniel Garcia, whom I considered my destined life partner, had been my childhood sweetheart. We had grown up together and even had an engagement promise made when we were still children. After the tragedy, instead of distancing themselves, his family treated me with even more care and attentiveness, as if trying to ease the pain I had endured. But that kindness was nothing more than a mask until my family fell into ruin. Our family fortune collapsed. My father, in utter despair, chose to end his life by jumping from the top of a building. I became an orphan, utterly alone in this world. From that moment on, our Lewis family, once at the peak of fame and status, plummeted into a dark abyss, facing countless scornful glances and cruel gossip. The Garcia family, in front of others, pretended to shoulder responsibility and promised to stand by me during difficult times. But behind their elegant words, they looked down on me and treated me with contempt. People began to whisper, blaming me for bringing bad luck, calling me a curse upon everyone around me. It was then that I realized the true nature behind all their past. Kindness. It was nothing but pretense, a perfectly staged performance. At first, Daniel Garcia, the man I once trusted to protect me, still maintained a caring front, saying, "I'll be your rock, your only family from now on." But even he didn't keep up the act for long, because he had found someone new, someone who needed his protection and sweet words. That person was none other than Zoe White, the woman who caused chaos and turned our wedding into a farce. Yet what no one in this world could have imagined was that Zoe White and I had known each other long before that day. In fact, our relationship was far more complicated. She was the poor student I once helped, the person I personally arranged to be Daniel Garcia's assistant, to work closely by his side. And yet, right in front of my eyes, she shamelessly stole everything from me, my place, and the love that was supposed to be mine. At first, their affair was secret hidden meetings, whispered conversations in the dark. But when they realized I wasn't reacting, that I could do nothing, they grew bolder and started flaunting their relationship in public. I once confronted Daniel Garcia, trying to seek an explanation. He only responded coldly and indifferently, saying, "I only promised to marry you. I never promised to love you with all my heart." He told me not to ask for too much, and to be grateful for everything his family had done for me. All those years, that it should be enough. Daniel Garcia's mother witnessed everything, yet she still advised me to be more forgiving. According to her, men are just like that. What truly pushed me to decide I had to destroy them was a vicious argument, during which Daniel Garcia spat out cruel words. "Can you stop bringing up your mother? I never asked her to save me, she did it willingly." Hearing those words, my heart felt like it was being crushed. There was no emotion left in me but pain and burning resentment. In that moment, I finally understood why he and Zoe White ended up together. Because they were the same kind of people, with the same goal and the same ruthless nature. Even Zoe White had once said to me, "I never asked you to sponsor me. What gives you the right to expect so much from me?" Behind my back, Mrs. Garcia didn't hesitate to speak cruelly either. Madame Lewis died early, who's to blame but herself? If not for public opinion, who would want to take in an unlucky girl like Sadie Lewis? From that moment on, the hatred I harbored toward them took root deep in my heart. It became the fuel that drove my plan for revenge. On the surface, however, I maintained a calm and composed appearance, as if I had accepted everything, as if I had surrendered to fate. No matter how much they humiliated or mistreated me, I appeared indifferent, unaffected. I even took care of Mrs. Garcia more attentively than ever before, while managing the company with utmost precision and dedication. So much so that people around me started whispering behind my back, puzzled by my actions. President Lewis is clearly a brilliant, capable woman in the business world. How could she be so weak and indecisive when it comes to love? That's right. Even if she's the Garcia family's daughter-in-law, so what? Mr. Garcia doesn't love her at all. She spent her whole life swallowing her bitterness. I acted as though I hadn't heard any of those comments. Instead, I chose the perfect time to meet privately with Zoe White, the person I considered a venomous snake. I asked her a question that had long haunted me, one I had always wanted answered. Why did it have to be Daniel Garcia? She answered simply and plainly, when you love someone, you love them. There's no need for a reason. I asked again, have you never felt guilty toward me? She replied without the slightest hesitation, no. Because he doesn't love you. He told me he was only with you out of obligation. If it weren't for your mother saving his life, he would never have stayed by your side. I pressed on. Aren't you bothered by being the third party your whole life? With no title. You know very well that the one he was going to marry was me. She instinctively placed a hand on her belly, her eyes gleaming with pride and defiance as she said, not necessarily. So she was pregnant. The time was ripe. At that moment, Daniel Garcia and his mother were both in the hospital. I strolled away on my own, savoring the results of everything I had so meticulously orchestrated. The internet's hot search list exploded in an instant just like that. With a snap of my fingers, news outlets simultaneously broadcasted the chaotic scenes from our wedding, and the scandal involving the CEO of the Garcia Corporation spread like wildfire. It truly was a dramatic tale, no different from the gripping dramas seen in the entertainment industry. Moreover, someone quickly identified the woman who had caused the uproar and disrupted the wedding. It was none other than the famous actress Zoe White. Previously, paparazzi had captured photos of her being intimate with Daniel Garcia, and rumors had circulated that she deliberately got pregnant before marriage to secure her position. Now, those rumors had been confirmed. It was time for me to prepare for the next step, to open a new chapter in my revenge play. The most thrilling and dramatic part of the show was still yet to come. Just as I was about to make an important phone call, my phone rang. It was Mrs. Garcia. Her voice was panicked and weak. Sadie, can you come to the hospital? The reporters have completely blocked the entrance. They're giving no one a chance to breathe. Of course they weren't. That was exactly what I wanted to see them crushed. But it wasn't yet time to reveal my hand. I calmly and patiently replied, Don't worry, ma'am. Please take care of your health. I'll be there right away. I had been invited. How could I miss such a spectacular show? After all, I wanted to see the results of my hard work with my own eyes. When I arrived at the hospital, a swarm of reporters surrounded me, all their microphones pointing directly at my face. President Lewis, are you aware of Mr. Garcia's relationship with Ms. White from the entertainment industry? How long have they been together? We heard the engagement between you and Mr. Garcia was arranged since childhood. With this incident, what are your plans moving forward? President Lewis, you and Mr. Garcia jointly manage the Garcia Corporation. If the engagement is cancelled, will that impact the company's growth? Will Garcia's upcoming IPO be postponed? President Lewis, could you please share a few words? I faced them calmly and began to answer. Please remain calm, everyone. Thank you for your concern for us and the company. But at the moment, Ms. White is still unconscious. Saving a life is the top priority right now. As for the other issues, I'm not in a position to disclose anything at the moment. Apologies, please step aside and clear the way. I turned my back and entered the hospital, as security tried to hold back the shouting reporters. Amid the chaos, I overheard someone whispering, Why did she even come to the hospital? And she's still worried about the mistress. She really has the composure of a legitimate wife. To marry into a rich family, she's endured everything, it's terrifying. Those words didn't stir me at all. The days I was bound to Daniel Garcia were filled with humiliation. Everyone laughed at me. Everyone looked down on me, but I never cared. Because making him love me was never the goal. My goal was to make him pay. Sadie, you've arrived. Mrs. Garcia was the first to see me. She wiped her tears and came over. I'm so sorry, on behalf of Daniel. We never expected the wedding to turn out like this. I gently patted her hand to comfort her. Please don't worry, I'm fine. How is Ms. White? She sighed. She's still in surgery. But the baby can't be saved. Her voice was filled with sorrow after all. It was her grandchild. Daniel Garcia sat on a bench in the hallway, head lowered, not sparing me a single glance. I took the initiative to approach him. But when I tried to comfort him, he swatted my hand away. Sadie Lewis, you did this on purpose, didn't you? I feigned innocence. Did what on purpose? Everyone knows about our engagement. You publicly called it off during a ceremony. It was a slap in the face. I know you hate me, and you hate Zoe White too. But you didn't have to go that far. Daniel Garcia, I interrupted loudly. Please look at things for what they are. The one who disrupted the wedding was her, not me. The one who pushed her was you, not me. In this situation, I am the victim. Mrs. Garcia, seeing me raise my voice, immediately scolded him. Speak properly to Sadie. Daniel Garcia was well known for being a filial son, a textbook mama's boy. He might not listen to anyone else, but when his mother spoke, he obeyed without question. After all, his father died early, and he and his mother had relied on each other for many years. This was exactly the point that I had exploited. I had Mrs. Garcia in the palm of my hand. As long as she was pleased with me, half the battle was already won. Since I took over control of the company, she had become increasingly polite and cautious around me. In the past, if something like this happened, she would have lashed out already. How dare you speak to my son like that? Who gave you the courage? That used to be her catchphrase. But not anymore. Now, she wouldn't dare afraid of offending me. I took a deep breath, sat down, and calmly said, Daniel Garcia, I don't want to be bound by this engagement for the rest of my life. If you love her, then marry her. If you don't love me, then let me go. I'm tired, I don't want to be entangled any longer. Sadie. He was just about to speak when the operating room door suddenly swung open. He jumped up and asked, Doctor, how is she? The doctor, just removing his mask, replied, The baby couldn't be saved. The mother is out of immediate danger for now. But what? The patient will no longer be able to conceive in the future. After delivering the news, the doctor politely bowed and left. Daniel Garcia stood there, murmuring in disbelief. How could this happen? Suddenly his phone rang. Annoyed, he hung up immediately. Right after that, my phone rang too. Judging by the timing, the gift I left at the company must have been discovered by now. And indeed, that was the case. As soon as I answered, the person on the other end frantically said, President Lewis, the company is under investigation by the tax authorities. You and Mr. Garcia must return immediately. What happened? Is it about my mother? Mrs. Garcia noticed my expression change and asked, It's the company, something's happened to the company. Daniel Garcia, this is only the beginning. The real retribution is still ahead. Panic was written all over Daniel Garcia's face. The grief and regret he had just shown instantly vanished. This was what truly frightened him. A man like him would never understand pain, unless it struck him at the root. After Daniel Garcia was taken away by the tax authorities, the shareholders swarmed the company's headquarters, demanding to sell off their shares. The stock price plummeted uncontrollably, likely beyond rescue. Taking advantage of the situation, the shareholders forced Daniel Garcia to resign, accusing him of gross mismanagement. Over the past 3 years, Daniel Garcia had blindly funneled money into the entertainment industry. Many of the projects resulted in losses, yet he continued with reckless gambling, becoming increasingly daring. Zoe White was merely one of the minor actresses he supported. There were many others. The entertainment company under his control had been evading taxes and signing under-the-table yin-yang contracts. Its exposure was only a matter of time. He just didn't expect that day to come so soon. Of course, he never suspected that I was the one behind it all. In his eyes, I had spent all those years diligently enduring everything for the sake of the company appearing submissive, just to maintain my status as the Garcia family's daughter-in-law. That's why he never saw me as a threat. And that was exactly the result I wanted. Only when he's off guard can I feel secure enough to strategize. This tax investigation is just a gentle warning from me. This isn't the end. It's just the beginning. His retribution has only just begun. Sadie Lewis. Mrs. Garcia unexpectedly sought me out to discuss countermeasures. Do you know anything about this tax issue? Daniel has always been careful in his work. How could he have ended up in this situation? Don't worry. It's just an investigation for now. There are no results yet. I'm afraid this time the chances of him being unscathed are slim. Saying this, she sighed deeply and continued. At this point, I won't hide anything from you anymore. Actually, I've known about Daniel and Zoe White for a long time. I advised him not to do anything foolish, but he didn't listen. It's just that why did Zoe White suddenly appear at the wedding? She clearly said she would. She hesitated, looking at me with remorse. I'm sorry, Sadie, it's my fault. I apologize. It's just because Zoe White is carrying Daniel's child. An innocent baby, so I asked her to keep this a secret. It's only temporary, she continued. If Zoe White's baby is born safely, we will consider. I implicitly understood her intentions and how she would decide. Are you planning to bring her into the Garcia family? Of course, after you're married. She interrupted me. Her tone hurried as she tried to defend herself. The engagement between you and Daniel cannot be changed. I only consider you the daughter-in-law of the Garcia family. Deep down, I could only manage a faint chilling smile. So what if it doesn't change? Would that stop him from living a polygamous life with countless lovers out there? Looking at her face, I only felt disgust. A repulsive hypocrisy. Despite being the elder in the family, she was no different from Daniel Garcia, both deceitful and two-faced. Regarding Zoe White, I clearly remembered her words to Daniel Garcia. Every word, every syllable was etched into my mind. Zoe White is carrying the Garcia family's child. No matter what, we must keep it. So what if Sadie Lewis knows? That child is just an orphan the Garcia family has raised for years. That's already a great kindness. And Daniel Garcia replied nonchalantly, without the slightest hesitation. Don't worry, Mom. I know what to do. Just like that, I had to witness Daniel secretly bringing Zoe White to the suburban villa, taking meticulous care of her, using money and resources to nurture her, transforming her from an ordinary student into a famous movie star. I had to witness their affectionate gestures, their deep love, even the fact that they had a child together. Now, recalling these events, I only felt a strange indifference. Aunt, I said slowly, my voice gentle, Daniel and I have called off the engagement. Whether you acknowledge me as your daughter-in-law or not is no longer important. I'm staying at the company because there's unfinished work, things that haven't been fully handed over. When Daniel returns, please tell him to take the initiative to apologize to me. Daniel Garcia was forced to agree because whenever his mother feigned a heart attack, he would obediently listen. Moreover, The emergency medication she always carried with her was all carefully prepared by me. I had taken incredibly devoted care of her. She had grown accustomed to it. As for Zoe White, Mrs. Garcia's final solution was to temporarily keep her outside, taking care of her until she gave birth safely. Afterward, she would find a way to abandon the mother and keep the child, giving Zoe White a sum of money so she would disappear from their lives. That was also the reason Zoe White was surprised to appear at the wedding. She had clearly signed an agreement. So why did everything spiral out of control? Naturally, it was because I had been secretly pulling the strings. The only thing is, perhaps she will never know this. I had spent a lot of time infiltrating the Garcia group, step by step gaining their trust. They thought I was making such efforts just to become the Garcia family's bride sooner. But my real purpose was to gather evidence, investigate the truth, and then push them into the clutches of the law. Being such a large and powerful corporation, destroying them wouldn't be easy. Only by causing internal chaos could I uproot them completely. Perhaps Daniel Garcia had no idea about the mutually exploitative contracts he had signed. Most of them were secretly arranged by me. Even some of the minor, seductive celebrities I personally brought close to him. Knowing myself and knowing my enemy ensures victory in every battle. Having lived together for so many years, no one understood him better than I did. Initially, it was just a plan. But Zoe White's pregnancy accelerated the process and made everything much easier. Because she was foolish. Not just simple-minded, but also emotionally unstable and easily manipulated. I only needed to provoke her a little, and she would immediately rush to Daniel Garcia and cause a scene. She dared to appear at the wedding because she believed that Daniel Garcia and his mother would definitely choose her, would side with her. I had secretly hinted to her that Mrs. Garcia desperately wants a grandchild, and I, due to health issues, cannot have children. Therefore, she was convinced that I was no match for her, and that she would definitely become the lady of the Garcia family. But she had no idea this was a trap I had meticulously prepared long ago. If she hadn't caused trouble, my plan couldn't have proceeded. She also didn't know that the baby in her womb never had a chance of survival. She had a progesterone deficiency in the early stages of pregnancy. The supplements had been secretly tampered with by me beforehand. Even if Daniel Garcia hadn't pushed her down in front of everyone, the pregnancy couldn't have lasted. The subsequent issue of her fertility was actually just an unexpected outcome, which could be considered a bonus accompanying my deeper calculations. During the time when Daniel Garcia was summoned for investigation, I naturally assumed a key role in managing the entire corporation. Mrs. Garcia relied on me more and more. She was worried and asked me about the next steps. I simply replied indifferently, "Wait for the final results of the investigation." In reality, the outcome was as clear as day. The remedy was simply to pay the evaded taxes and serve a few years in prison. However, I found that punishment insufficient to satisfy my interest. In this game of chess, I had quietly allied myself with the major shareholders in the corporation, carefully transferring business operations and discreetly persuading several key clients to leave. By the time Daniel was released, the corporation would resemble a faded inkwash painting, deteriorated beyond repair. Calculating the timing, I guessed that Zoe White must have recovered considerably and would definitely come looking for me to settle the score. Sure enough, it wasn't long before her figure appeared before me. At that moment, I was tending to the potted plants on my desk when Zoe White angrily stormed in. Before my assistant could stop her, I signaled her to leave, called Mrs. Garcia, and then left as well. I looked at Zoe White, assessing her from head to toe, and exclaimed, "I didn't expect you to still be in such good health. Stop pretending," she blurted out, her eyes brimming with tears and resentment. "My child is gone, and I can't have children anymore. You must be very pleased, aren't you? I replied, What are you talking about? This has nothing to do with me. I know everything. Zoe White screamed, tears streaming down her face. It was you who deliberately set a trap to make me cause trouble at the wedding. You're so cruel. I smiled faintly in response to her accusation. Do you have any evidence? Feel free to sue me. In her rage, she lost control and blurted out, No wonder Daniel Garcia doesn't love you. A woman like you doesn't deserve to be loved. I indifferently shrugged, stirring up the provocation. Do you believe that with the current situation? I only need to say one word, and he will kick you away like trash. And another thing, I paused for a moment and continued. Whether you can continue to exist in the entertainment industry depends on my mood. I also own shares in the entertainment company you signed with. Next time you see me, remember to behave yourself properly. Zoe White's face flushed crimson, and as she lunged forward to slap me, Mrs. Garcia stopped her just in time. Instead, Mrs. Garcia slapped Zoe White hard across the face, loudly scolding, You ungrateful wretch! How dare you come here and cause trouble? Zoe White was dumbfounded, unable to believe her eyes. She certainly couldn't understand why a mother-in-law who had once doted on her would turn on her so quickly. In reality, everything was very simple. Previously, Mrs. Garcia had protected her because she was carrying her eldest grandson. Now that the child was gone, Zoe White's crucial bargaining chip had lost its value and was therefore worthless. Moreover, the Garcia group now had to rely on me to maintain and develop, and Mrs. Garcia couldn't risk offending me. Without me, her son might not escape the clutches of the law. Young women like Zoe White mostly don't understand that the essence of relationships in society is actually an equal exchange. Without value, no one will truly respect you. Beauty, figure, and charisma are just plus points. But without intelligence, ability, and influence, being ostracized by others is only a matter of time. The same goes for love. Ultimately, love isn't about how deep or shallow the feelings are, but whether the person has a conscience. And conscience is the rarest thing of all, ultimately unreliable. The only thing you can rely on from beginning to end is yourself. I heard that after returning home, Zoe White flew into a rage. Currently, no one is inviting her to act in movies. Previous advertising contracts have also been cancelled one after another, and she has to face huge contractual compensation. At this time, she was surrounded by scandals, her reputation completely ruined. From a famous star in the blink of an eye, she had become the despised third party. Every time she turned on her phone, she had to read sarcastic and mocking comments from netizens. Zoe White was truly too delusional to hope to marry into a wealthy family and become the lady of the Garcia family. How could the Garcia family accept someone like her stepping through their door? Even if the child had been born, it would only be an illegitimate child with no status. If it were me, I would have gone into hiding, not daring to go out because of the utter shame. However, the CEO Garcia's fiancée was no simple woman either. Everyone speculated. I wonder if the CEO Garcia's arrest has anything to do with her. Who knows? Anyway, she doesn't look like a simple person. About a week after that event, as I was carefully considering how many cards I still held in my hand to prepare for the next moves, my secretary suddenly burst into the office in a panic and exclaimed, CEO Lewis, something's happened. With a look, I signaled her to continue. She stammered, Zoe White. She slit her wrists too. Slit her wrists. I repeated in a completely calm tone. So she slit her wrists. What are you panicking about? How does this concern us? I smiled faintly, the corners of my lips slightly curving up. The secretary continued hesitantly. Before harming herself, She posted on social media with content, implying that you had pushed her to the brink. I raised my eyebrows and asked, "Is there any concrete evidence?" She replied awkwardly, "No, ma'am." I nodded. "Then let's just leave it alone." Would I really go and force her to become a third party? I took a sip of coffee, rhythmically placed the cup down, and continued, "You should calm down. I think there's an 80% chance she's just trying to put on an act and attract attention. If I'm not mistaken, she's probably still lying in the emergency room right now. Isn't she?" My secretary was utterly astonished and asked, "How could you possibly know that?" I didn't answer. Instead, I picked up my handbag and said nonchalantly, "Let's go. We'll go to the hospital to visit her." It was during that unexpected trip to the hospital that I inadvertently uncovered a shocking secret about Zoe White, a crucial piece of information that solidified my final plan. The more detailed and intricate phases of this plan were all omitted from my thoughts. Upon arrival, Zoe White's attending physician revealed that she was suffering from severe depression and had a family history of mental illness. Moreover, she had received treatment before. However, most recently, she had unilaterally stopped taking her medication without any authorization. Her current health condition was very dangerous, requiring 24/7 supervision and absolute avoidance of strong emotional triggers. Hearing this, I immediately asked, "So, if she's triggered, what will be the consequences?" The doctor hesitated for a long moment before slowly replying, "It could be life-threatening." A silent satisfaction welled up within me. Excellent, I thought. Daniel Garcia was also about to return, and having him be the one to trigger her would be a perfect choice to send them, both spiraling towards their end together. Indeed, when Daniel Garcia returned and witnessed the chaotic state of the Garcia group, he was completely disoriented. He bore the weight of a massive tax evasion debt, yet the corporation was on the verge of complete bankruptcy, unable to pay off that enormous sum. My initial plan was to wait until he returned, and then play all my remaining cards, ensuring he would go to prison for a long time. However, that intention had changed. Deep down, he had begun to suspect that I was the one orchestrating the manipulation of the corporation. He suspected that all the previous under-the-table deals he had signed were part of my plan. However, he didn't have enough evidence and could only come to me to vent his anger. His face was etched with pain as he poured out his frustration. "Sadie Lewis, why do you hold such a deep grudge against me? Is it all just because of Zoe White?" I replied calmly, my tone cold and decisive. "Yes, it's exactly because of Zoe White. If I still had feelings for you, how could I possibly overlook such betrayal? She appeared and humiliated me. Don't I have the right to be angry?" He was silent for a long time, then finally raised his head and looked directly at me. "It was just a broken wedding. I can compensate you. I can even completely cut off all ties with Zoe White." I looked at him, a glimmer of hope flickering in my eyes, and replied, "Are you telling the truth? Then let's see your actions." I turned my back, intending to leave, but he called me back sharply. "Are you the one behind the Martinez Corporation?" My heart skipped a beat. The Martinez Corporation was the Garcia Group's biggest competitor at that time, and many clients had terminated their cooperation with the Garcia Group and switched to Martinez. Had he realized? Well, I thought it was time to let him know the truth anyway. He continued, "Your mother is related to the Martinez family, and there are also some veteran former employees of the Lewis Group in that company." I nonchalantly shrugged, gesturing for him to continue speaking. He bitterly said, "Sadie, you're the one behind all of this, aren't you? You're the one who exposed Garcia's tax evasion, right? You were jealous of Zoe White and wanted to get back at me that badly." He let out a cold laugh. I never thought a jealous woman could go this far. I didn't respond directly. Instead, I said, "That's not the issue. What matters now is that you've lost everything. If you want my help, that's possible, but first, you have to settle things with Zoe White." Not long after I left, he rushed off to find Zoe White. At that time, Zoe had just escaped a life-threatening crisis and was mentally unstable. Choosing that moment to break up with her was undeniably irrational, but it was exactly what I wanted. As expected, my people reported that Zoe White had arranged to meet Daniel Garcia on Sunday evening at 6 p.m. at a mountain lodge, the same place they had their first date. The location was quite secluded. Did Daniel Garcia agree to it? I asked. Yes, he did, they replied. Zoe White had threatened that if he refused, she would expose everything, including the secret deals he'd made. Not only with her, but with many other models and actresses. Hearing that gave me chills. These two were truly locked in a fascinating power struggle. I figured Zoe chose that place to rekindle old memories, hoping Daniel Garcia might change his mind. After all, Daniel Garcia is quite a nostalgic man. Whether he could safely leave that mountain after their breakup remained to be seen. But one thing I was certain of: he wouldn't walk away from this separation unscathed. And he wouldn't survive leaving that mountain. The final Sunday arrived. Before going to see Zoe White one last time, Daniel Garcia came to find me. He asked me with a serious expression, "Could you give me a chance to start over?" He earnestly said, "Sadie, I want to break up with Zoe White, not just so you'll help me, but because after everything that's happened, I've truly woken up. Lately, I've been remembering so many things, even our childhood days. I once loved you sincerely and wanted to marry you. It's just that later, I don't know why. Maybe because you indulged me too much. You know, when someone is loved and indulged too much, they become unrestrained. Once I assumed you would never leave me. I let myself go and did wrong things. Actually, I coldly interrupted him. Daniel Garcia, what exactly are you trying to say? Whether or not I forgive you isn't something you get to decide. Only your actions can determine everything. If you want to reconcile, first you must completely cut off all relationships with other women," he hastily promised. "From now on, I will use my actions to prove it." I chuckled coldly, turned around and left. In my heart I thought, there will be no from now on. We have already said goodbye forever, Daniel Garcia. At that moment I received a call from Daniel Garcia's mother. She invited me to dinner, saying that she wanted to apologize on behalf of her son and also congratulate me and Daniel Garcia on getting back together. For me, a good play isn't complete without an audience, so I happily accepted. Dinner was arranged in a private room at a 5-star hotel, with just Mrs. Garcia and me. She enthusiastically piled food onto my plate, incessantly praising me, saying that the Garcia family was incredibly fortunate to have me. I simply smiled and remained silent, occasionally glancing at my mobile phone, especially after 6 p.m. Around the ambiguous time of 7 p.m., Mrs. Garcia received a phone call. The moment she hung up, her expression drastically changed, becoming serious as if she had just received terrible news. My intuition gently told me that the moment I had been waiting for had finally arrived, although it had unexpectedly come sooner than I had anticipated. With feigned concern, I turned my gaze towards her, intending to gently inquire about the situation. Unexpectedly, she suddenly dropped her phone onto the tiled floor. Her whole body trembled and she collapsed to the ground, her body beginning to convulse. I immediately understood that she was facing a heart attack, a very dangerous situation. In a panic, I shouted, "Auntie, are you all right? Please don't scare me." "The medicine. Where's the medicine?" "In my bag. Quickly get the medicine out." Without hesitation, with unbelievable swiftness, I immediately rushed towards the nearby sofa where her usual handbag was placed. I frantically rummaged through it, hoping to find the specific heart medication she always used. However, misfortune wouldn't let go. In my hand was only an empty medicine bottle. A surge of annoyance welled up, and I threw the empty bottle hard onto the floor in fury. Immediately after, I hastily took out my phone and dialed the emergency number while trying to reassure the motionless woman on the floor. "Auntie, please try to hold on a little longer. I'll go get someone to help you right away." Just as I stepped out of the private room, in my haste, I accidentally bumped into a waiter carrying a tray of food. The sound of the collision echoed as the porcelain plates shattered into pieces on the floor, food scattering everywhere. Unfortunately, a sharp shard cut into my hand, and blood began to flow relentlessly, stinging painfully. I cried out in pain. The waiter apologized profusely, bowing repeatedly. Around us, curious eyes were all fixed on us. The precious time to save someone. Having a heart attack is only about 4 to 6 minutes. Every passing second could determine survival. Even though I harbored immense hatred for Mrs. Garcia, I had no intention of wanting her to die at this moment. "Ah!" I exclaimed, my voice strained and trembling with fear. "Everyone, please don't worry about me. There's someone having a heart attack in the private room at the end of the hallway. Is there a doctor in the hotel?" With all my effort, I tried to stand firm while trying to inform everyone of the situation. As soon as they heard, the guests in the hotel immediately ran towards the private room, where Mrs. Garcia was lying. Fortunately, amidst the crisis, there was a doctor among the hotel guests. He immediately arrived and began initial first aid measures for Mrs. Garcia, trying to stabilize her condition until the ambulance arrived. However, fate was cruel. Perhaps due to extreme mental stress and utter panic, Mrs. Garcia ultimately couldn't survive the critical condition. I, of course, clearly understood the underlying cause of Mrs. Garcia's sudden heart attack. It was all because her only son, whom she cherished so much, Daniel Garcia, had met with a tragic accident when his car skidded off the road and fell into a deep ravine, killing him instantly. Sharing the same cruel fate was his lover, Miss Zoe White, who was in the passenger seat. According to statements from the police, a heated argument broke out between the two just before the accident. The situation escalated when the woman suddenly lost control and yanked the steering wheel, causing the car to plunge straight off the cliff. What's noteworthy is that Zoe White had a history of mental illness. After recovering the in-car audio recording, part of the conversation was reconstructed. In short, Zoe White accused me of orchestrating everything with the intention of harming her. Daniel Garcia didn't believe her claims. He insisted I wasn't that kind of person. He also declared he would break up with her, and asked her not to hold on to the delusion of marriage. Zoe White was utterly heartbroken, plunged into deep despair. In her anguish, she recalled the child she had lost, realized she would never be able to have children again, remembered all the sweet promises and hopes Daniel Garcia had once given her, and finally, the betrayal, the emotional wounds and overwhelming despair closed in on her. She couldn't endure it any longer. Her psychological breakdown exploded. The mental illness flared up. Just one moment of extreme agitation pushed her over the edge, causing her to completely lose her grip on reality and spiral into madness. And so, she chose to leave this world forever with Daniel Garcia. Relying on the crucial audio recording, the police summoned me for questioning in an effort to clarify every detail. With a cold, unwavering calmness, I recounted in full the complicated relationship between myself, Daniel Garcia, and Zoe White, firmly denying all their suspicions. After all, Everything was based solely on Zoe's one-sided claims. There wasn't any concrete evidence. Moreover, those were the words of someone with a documented mental illness, someone whose mind was unstable. In the end, the case was concluded as a tragic accident. The deaths of both were ruled as unintentional. After the information was made public, fierce debates erupted across social media. Some claimed it was karmic retribution, that they brought it upon themselves and expressed satisfaction at their tragic end. Others suspected that someone behind the scenes had orchestrated the whole thing. When I successfully secured additional investment in the Garcia Corporation and officially became its CEO, those suspicions only grew louder. But I no longer cared because at that point, I was simply a wealthy queen who had just lost her fiancé. Moreover, at Daniel Garcia's funeral, I wept so sorrowfully that everyone who saw me couldn't help but exclaim, "Ms. Lewis truly loved him." Even though Mr. Garcia treated her terribly while he was alive, she still couldn't forget him. In their eyes, I was just a foolish woman abandoned at a prestigious wedding, yet still clinging to the hope of marrying into the Garcia family. As rumors spread, so too did the gossip, but eventually it all faded away. More and more people began to sympathize with me. After Daniel Garcia's death, I started having strange dreams. I dreamt of the fateful night when my mother perished in the flames. I dreamt of her pushing Daniel Garcia away and pleading, "Daniel, please take care of Sadie for me." But in the dream, Daniel refused. He told her, "Take care of yourself." Then he rejected the chance to be rescued and chose to die with the fire. I always woke up with a heavy sense of unease, thinking, if only that had been real. If only it had really happened. My mother would still be alive, and I would have lived an entirely different life. A life without Daniel Garcia. And then it hit me, wasn't that exactly the life I had now? He was gone. I couldn't help but smile, the corners of my lips curling ever so slightly, revealing a faint glimmer of hope. I had found hope again for my life. Thank you all for listening. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to hear more great stories as soon as they're released.